We are walking the High Line today in New York, enjoying a beautiful sunrise in the morning, Sunday. I received a question the other day to stimulate the conversation. The question is, I often feel challenged by the variety of tasks from sales to creative development. Balancing marketing, creative time, and learning new skills feels challenging. How can I prioritize and build ideal habits to balance creativity, deep work, sales and business growth, and free time? I deeply appreciate your answer. Well, I deeply appreciate your question, and we all deeply appreciate that you would ask this question so that we can all benefit greatly in today's conversation. So, a number of words that stand out for me. Challenged, balancing, prioritizing, ideal habits, creativity, deep work, business growth, free time. I would like to explore some insights in relation to these points. So, as we discussed in relation to challenge, flow, we can experience flow in the sweet spot of where challenge meets skill. For further detail, I recommend my Flow-Based Life series, but let's explore this. So, if we could set up our day, our week, our month in a way that factors the important areas of our lives and keeps them into consideration in a way where they relate harmoniously with each other, then a lot of the challenges, or what we call challenges, are either reduced or eliminated. If there are challenges, then we can transmute that challenge into the experience of flow. In Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's book, Flow, he talks about how the individual can experience flow where challenge meets skill. So let's explore this for a moment. Let's say you're learning a skill, which is something that you are doing. Notice how while you're engaging in the activity, there's a particular point where you are stimulated by the challenge. You're not overthinking it. You're not overwhelmed by it. There's a sweet spot. And in this particular sweet spot, what happens is you stop thinking or overthinking. You notice that there's a harmony physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. There's a harmony. Spiritually being, you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So you experience it with the task. And that is the point that you enter into flow state. For example, for me, in my years in public speaking and making these videos, having conversations, sales presentations, etc., I get started, and then what happens is being aware of my body, what I think, and what I emotionally relate to the experience, I release into the flow. I release the control into the flow. Now, while I am in flow, enjoying the experience, skill is getting cultivated. So that's a key insight. Valuing that point where challenge meets skill. If you can be aware of that particular point in the various activities and value that point, what happens is you'll automatically notice that with various activities that you do throughout the day, and you'll allow yourself to enter into flow. If not, what could happen is the individual may be identified with the overthinking, the inharmonious thoughts perhaps, Or they might not be allowing their emotions to be released. Or they might be thinking about their behaviors to the point where they get stuck in their head thinking about their behaviors rather than letting body flow. And they stay identified with that kind of thinking or that identification to their emotions and thinking and body throughout the practice or the experience, whatever it is that they're doing. So as a result of that, if they do that, let's say with various tasks, initiatives, conversations, activities, hobbies, they may find that they feel overwhelmed. They're adding extra pressure to their body, and they're generating a stress-based experience, force-based experience. So the practice is to be aware of that point where challenge meets skill. So for example, let's use conversations. I love conversations, as you know. If a person starts a conversation with someone, let's say a friend, a team member, a client, and maybe in the beginning they're a little stuck in their head. They're not present to the interaction with the other person. They can pause, be aware of that, and just be still, inwardly. Allow any overthinking or thinking in general to be released. They might feel it to be a little uncomfortable in the beginning, but they can release whatever emotions are arising in relation to the other person or in relation to themselves, rather than trying to, based on what the other person says, in their head, think about what they're going to say next. They can just let the other person talk. They can allow their body to relax. So they might be thinking about things in the future, or their past, or their workday. They can simply stop thinking about those things. Become very present to the moment. And what they'll notice is they will relax into the conversation flow. They are now in the flow. So what could have been challenging for them, let's say the conversation seems challenging for them, they genuinely wanted to have that conversation with them, but they were overthinking, it seemed stressful, maybe it didn't feel like the conversation was flowing and it felt like the other person is disconnected from them, they feel disconnected with the other person. By applying this, they actually release, or we could say relax into the flow. As you hear me say often, a lot nowadays, I am still, yet I appear to flow. Body appears to flow, mind appears to flow, and it's experienced as conversational flow. Emotions flow. There's a naturalness in the conversation. So, as mentioned, you can practice this with conversations. You could practice this while going for a walk. You can also practice it while going for a walk and recording a video and having a conversation. See, one of the benefits of practicing this is, perfect example, two people walking by. So back in the days, when I didn't practice this, I wasn't aware of this to the degree that we're talking about now. I would see people walking towards me. Here I am, walking the High Line and holding a selfie stick by myself, talking into a camera, quite loud actually. And I might think, what are they going to think of me? They might think, that's weird, there's a guy walking with a selfie stick talking into a camera. But I don't have those thoughts anymore. They're just not there. So, in relation to the question here, practice valuing that sweet spot where challenge meets skill. Now let's talk about balancing and prioritizing. So I created a productivity program. If you're not a student of my productivity program, I recommend it. Since 2005, I remember taking this program when I was in corporate. It's called, and maybe it's still around, Priority Manager. And part of the program is they give you this binder, and you essentially incorporate this binder into your life. And they give you these best practices and different techniques. And that's actually the program where, when I went to it, I learned how to mind map through that program. That was where I was introduced to mind mapping. So they taught me a whole bunch of things, and I remember using this binder, and it helped me tremendously. So I got really into productivity. So I remember reading all these different books, taking all these different programs, and even if you're into project management, I started studying PMBOK, and I would take training programs on project management professional, becoming a project management professional. I was fascinated by productivity, efficiency, etc. And I learned a lot of things. And I applied a lot of things, some of the things that I found to be very beneficial for me. Some might be very beneficial for other people. But essentially, I found my way that works best for me in my corporate career, and it helped me tremendously. And it was incorporating the various things that I learned. Now, when I started my IT business in 2009, I used some of those things, and some of the things I did not, as it wasn't applicable. So when I built my business to success, my IT business, and then got into my consulting practice in 2013 and was growing that as well, eventually at a particular point, I created my productivity program, which is a culmination of the things that I have learned, put into place over the years, and also worked with entrepreneurs to put into their businesses. Good morning. And I found all these commonalities and essentially put it all into the program. Now, you don't have to do all those things that are in the program. You don't have to do all the things that are mentioned in the various books. There's so many things, books, videos, etc. The key is finding the techniques, the strategies, the ways that work best for you to facilitate what we discussed earlier, which is flow. Because if you put too many productivity techniques and strategies that you have learned from books and videos and you try to fit them to be productive, that might be very stressful. So I want to share a key insight in relation to that simplifies everything. So I like the word harmony. I might not use the word balancing, but I do know what you're pointing to. I like the word harmony. My goal is to remain in my flow. As you know, in 2017, I rearranged my entire life so that I remain in my flow. And like you, I have various interests, hobbies, tasks, initiatives. I produce, I put out way more than I've ever put out in my entire life. I accomplish way more tasks, more things get done. Part of it is as I mentioned at times, automation, delegation, optimization, elimination in part or in whole or in combination, and that's also discussed in the productivity program. But I always use that as the litmus. I check in with myself and there is a qualitative indicator. Is this flow-based? So anything that I put into place, is this flow-based? So I'm going to share with you something practical right now in relation to that. Considering flow, considering being aware of that sweet spot where challenge meets skill. I don't run away from challenge. I enjoy challenge. But at the same time, I do not want to be overwhelmed, because I know myself back in the days, if I would feel overwhelmed, I would forget the things that we're talking about today. So what I found was the following. I work with Google Calendar. I have a schedule. There's also space in my calendar for free time. So I ensure in my calendar, my Google Calendar, there's enough space for free time to do nothing, to do some hobbies, snowboarding, for example, whatever it is that I like to do. There's ample space. I give myself enough space in my calendar to do the things that I love to do, that inspire me, that are fun, etc., you name it. It's up to you. Give yourself ample space. Now, I also schedule my other activities, my tasks, my projects for my business. So I made time in my calendar to record this video. It's a Sunday. I have enough space on my calendar to record this video and enjoy a wonderful walk. Then I have a 1-hour conversation with a client, and then I have more time to enjoy New York City. Perhaps I'll go for a walk. And then I'm meeting with a client. We're meeting downstairs and we're gonna talk for an hour. Then I have more time. Then after that, meeting up with another client, we're gonna talk for about an hour, and then we're gonna go for a walk as well. So it's all in my calendar, it's scheduled. Now, each one of these initiatives, I show up to it, I fully commit to the initiative, and I commit to it while in a state of flow, or like we discussed earlier, I enter into the flow, maybe if a little bit. Nowadays, I remain in my flow, but in the earlier stages, there may be a few minutes of calibrating into the flow with that task, with that initiative. So, the calendar can be really helpful. And then consider this as well. You may have various areas of your life that you're interested in, let's say skill cultivation, time with your friends, hobbies, business initiatives, things you want to learn. The way I work with my calendar is as following. And again, you may consider this, or you may do a variation of this. So, the way I do it, let's actually set up here and continue the conversation. So, the way that I do it is particular days may be dedicated for particular tasks or particular projects. I may dedicate an entire 8-hour workday for a particular project. I may do that. The answer is depends, because this is where you check in with yourself. Why I say this is because if the schedule, the Google Calendar schedule, gets too rigid, it might be experienced as a flow restrictor. What we're interested is flow enhancers, a flow enhancer style of schedule on the calendar, so that if you do experience challenge in the various tasks, the initiatives, skill cultivation, etc., you don't add extra pressure onto yourself, and you're able to calibrate to that sweet spot where challenge meets skill. So I may do particular days on my schedule dedicated to specific initiatives. Now, another thing that I may do, and this varies, is half and half. Half day working on my video, the other half on administration or whatever. And or I may segment the day to do creative initiatives in the start of the day. I like to record videos in the start of the day. Then I may do a call with a client, go for lunch, do another call with a client, and if you're a member of my Flow-Based Prosperity, then you know that on Mondays at 3 p.m. Eastern, Toronto time, we do our Zoom group coaching session. And that goes on till it's complete, and then I may do a little bit of administrative work, post the recording, and then I have free time. Go for a walk, enjoy personal time, etc. Go to sleep. You know, the next day I wake up. I have a morning routine. It's a very simple morning routine. It includes working out, meditation, a healthy breakfast. And so all the nuances of what I have done and recommend that you try are in my productivity program. So, to recap thus far, in relation to the Google Calendar, is particular days may be dedicated for particular projects or initiatives. Days may be segmented to be half and half or 33%, 33%, 33%. Ensure that you incorporate an adequate amount of breaks, and also ensure that you are factoring the other areas of your life, time with family, time with yourself, etc. And play around with this. It took me a period of time to play around with this and find an ideal ratio that I notice may remain static for months at a time. So by that I mean, maybe for particular months at a time, I have a set schedule on how I do things. Again, from a state of flow, remain in my flow. It doesn't feel stressful for me. It doesn't feel overwhelming for me. I'm still able to factor in, as we had mentioned earlier, creativity, deep work. I'm able to also form ideal habits. We've been speaking about ideal habits. We've been talking about thinking ideally in relation to people, environment, circumstance, information, so that you can be as you are, be authentic, be your ideal self now, and continue to experience that physically, emotionally, mentally, to experience the life that you truly desire to live. So we talked about challenge meeting skill. I recommend my Flow-Based Life series. We talk about harmonizing and finding ways that work for us, and then forming the habit of doing that again and again and again. What you'll find is that you will naturally be able to adjust if things change in your life. Let's say you move to another country, and instead of the gym being downstairs, it is maybe a 20-minute drive away. Maybe with the particular hobbies that you're doing, more things are factored into consideration. Let's say if you are learning kickboxing, for example, maybe before the place that you were going was 10 minutes away, but now it's an hour drive away. You'll vary it and say, well, for that hour drive, I'll listen to some wonderful audio programs. I will learn XYZ while I drive. I will consider that some of my rejuvenation time. Or I will go with a friend and we can hang out on the way there. You'll be able to adjust your schedule to factor in. Now, I acknowledge there's more nuances that probably we benefit from keeping them into consideration as we're discussing this. So this is being very high level, and I'm speaking about this in a way that I trust is beneficial for you watching this and everyone watching this. And again, more nuances in the productivity program. So when a person thinks of productivity, the way I think of it is harmony. The way I think of it is I embrace challenge and I experience flow with it, cultivating skill. What you also find when it comes to skill cultivation is in that sweet spot where challenge meets skill, you cultivate the skill, you enjoy your life, you enjoy the experience, you cultivate the skill easier, faster, and you will notice that you will progress a lot easier, faster, and you'll have a lot of fun. And this experience of enjoying the skill cultivation will start to become the normal. It's actually the normal way of living. You'll notice that this is experienced throughout the day. So in your business, you're also cultivating skills. You may be cultivating direct response marketing, copywriting, consultative selling skills, leadership skills, a lot of different skills. You'll cultivate those skills a lot easier and faster, and you'll enjoy cultivating the skills because you're aware of that sweet spot where if there's challenge, that sweet spot is where you cultivate skill. Now, a number of things happen while you're in flow state to facilitate all of this so that it becomes more natural to also, as we discussed, listen to the still small voice, which provides clarity on optimizing in a way that works best for you, everything that we've discussed, intuition as well. And also, this is another key benefit of doing this. Well, there's a few, let's explore a few. An ideal ratio of neurotransmitters are released, including anandamide. Anandamide is released. The word ananda in anandamide comes from the Sanskrit word ananda, which means bliss. It's the bliss molecule. The bliss molecule is released while you're in flow. So if we're not doing all these things from a state of flow, then we might not be getting those benefits that we can get from the bliss molecule, such as a reconciliation of divergent and convergent thinking. Divergent thinking is seeing things from many different perspectives. Convergent thinking is working with some well-established solutions. So, practical example would be, as you operate from a state of flow, as you experience lateral being, as I like to call it, a reconciliation of divergent thinking and convergent thinking into your being, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, a harmony and congruence, all these things that we talk about on the channel, all the things in my 5 programs, you'll choose the ones, the way even the ones that I discuss that have worked for me, that have worked for my clients, that work best for you. This is why when I work with clients, it is always a custom solution. I have never found one templated solution that works universally for everyone. There may be particular characteristics, yes, but the variation is personalized to the individual, and that's perfect. That's perfect, because you are an individual, and your style is the best style for you. So let's continue the walk and continue our conversation. I'm with Jay here, suffering from realness. Are you really thinking?
I'm always real.
You're always real, you're always really thinking.
Well, being as I am is real.
Can't get more real than that. I talked today about flow. I also talked about setting up your day so it's flow-based while considering the different important areas of your life, the various tasks, projects, initiative. Setting up your day, Google Calendar, maybe doing dedicated days for particular initiatives.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe segmenting your day.
Yeah.
How do you segment your day?
So, I like the macroscopic view. First, I segment the week. And this is something I actually implemented more recently, because the more I learn that we switch tasks, this is disrupting our flow.
Yeah.
Right? So, right now, Monday is the big planning day. And you have the mastermind, so it's
Yeah.
to meditate, get in the right vibration, know what the objectives are. Tuesday is my internal day.
Yeah.
And so I have all of my individual meetings with my team. I have team meetings. I check on all of the internal communications processes that need to be maintained. That's Tuesday. Wednesday is creative day, free form. And I don't schedule any meetings. No one can put meetings on my calendar on Wednesday. I allow myself to wander, I allow myself to create, I allow myself to rest, whatever's needed. Thursday is client day. That's when I'll close deals. I'll schedule meetings on Thursday for that, in particular if I know it's high leverage. If we have existing clients and I need to be on the meeting for whatever means, I like to do that on Thursdays. And Friday is whatever else needs to be done. That's how I structure my week. And I use Google Calendar, I use Notion.
That's what I was talking about, Google Calendar.
Yeah.
So you stagger your days. Some days are dedicated for specific initiatives, but then you might switch it up. And then there are days where you put via ratio, you block off particular points or particular hours for particular task projects, etc.
Yeah.
How did you get to that point? Did you test? Did you try things out?
Yeah, so at first, for a while, I was just Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I would basically just make those the days that I would sit on Zoom and I would just work. And I would end up sometimes working on projects at late at night, 2, 3 in the morning. I would check my email all the time and get distracted. And another key thing I did for flow with this was I keep my phone on Do Not Disturb. And it's not because I don't want people to text me. It's so that I can be mindful in the moment.
Yes, present. Every time you stay committed to one task till completion, you get nuances for optimization. You also practice presence. And then based on that, you can determine how to segment your day. And then you can segment it optimally. If, let's say, a person is constantly getting distracted by notifications, phones going off, etc., they may miss those opportunity points and they can end up repeating that same thing and go on for weeks and months, and they may be missing out on the optimization data. How do you relate to that?
That would happen to me where I would get a text or an email and I'd be in the middle of a meeting, say I might need to close a deal, and I'll get a text that induces anxiety, fear, etc., just my initial reaction to something. So I don't have any email notifications, no text notifications on my phone. I don't get calls during the day.
Did you find it was something that you naturally flowed with, or did in the earlier stages you practice being mindful about it?
It was natural because it's choosing what you want most over what you want now.
I like that.
When you know the vision, it's easy to make those distinctions. And for me,
You can think really. You can really think for yourself.
right.
Yeah. You
For
can be
me,
real.
The flow was everything in order to be productive. My energy, I needed to maintain the love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment now.
Yes.
And when people would email me or text me or anything like that, am I gonna sit down, read it, think about it, respond? Am I gonna do all of that for the next 20, 30 minutes? No. And so I'll give myself that time to even look and see who do I need to respond to, what are the messages, but it allows me to be present. When I'm in a meeting with someone, I'm there. When I'm
Yes.
creating
Fully
something
committed.
new, I'm only creating something
All
new.
into the flow.
Yeah,
All into the flow.
yeah.
And you find that when you're all into the flow, everybody around you is also all into the flow.
Yes, because it inspires my team. That's something that they now implement.
Yes.
And so even the other day it was funny. One of the members on my team, I texted him because we were gonna have a meeting, and I just said hey, and he didn't text me back for like a couple minutes, and then I just called him, and he was like, "Oh, my bad, bro. My phone's on Do Not Disturb." And I was like, no, I would rather it be that way. I like that because it was him staying on purpose with his time.
Yeah. We can even say purpose is contagious in a way. We could say it that way. If the individual is on purpose, everyone around them is on purpose.
Yes.
So to the degree a person is on purpose, it reflects, and everyone around appears to be on purpose. You notice that? It's like you cannot imagine anyone around you not being on purpose.
Right.
So we talk about imagining everyone ideally. If you're on purpose, you cannot think unwise. You can't think unreal. When you're on purpose, you automatically imagine them being on purpose, and they appear to be on purpose. You could even say you don't even need to imagine them to be on purpose. They're automatically on purpose because all you know is being on purpose, being real.
Yes. And the combination of Notion Calendar with Google Calendar, I can see.
What's that, Notion Calendar?
So Notion, I think a lot of people are familiar with Notion, that software, but they added almost just another app altogether called Notion Calendar that allows you to sync your Notion database, so all of your tasks, meeting notes, all these types of things, documents, to your various Google Calendars. And so you can layer everything on Notion, all of your tasks, all of your everything on top of all of your Google Calendars.
That's very insightful. Thanks for that.
That's a great, great tool. Huge efficiency I found for that. I used to have an assistant, and I don't need one to schedule anything. It's become so seamless now with that software. But I can see all of my team's Google Calendars because we share the same domain through that. And this is again talking about staying on purpose. So each week, I don't like to hang over my team to say like, well, did you talk to this person? How did it go? Are you talking to this many people? Like, I don't like to manage or lead that way. If there's an issue, it'll be addressed, but it's assumed that you're operating ideally.
Yeah.
And so each week they'll send their projections of, well, I expect to talk to this many people. Of the people I talk to, I'm thinking this many people I could close, and this many people we have as clients. And so we keep that tempo, but it's someone keeping themselves accountable. Instead of me telling them, you should be talking to this many people, closing this many deals, I present it as an opportunity. If you increase the amount of people you talk to, close deals, use this system, the more that you use the system, the more money you have the potential to make, the more prosperity you have the potential to experience. But
Jay, you're
you
always
set the
really
pace.
thinking, dropping gems. You can only be dropping gems when you're really thinking. I'm going to link in the description to Jay's channel. Check out his channel. To bring into summary everything that we've discussed so far, let's explore the question again. So the question was, I often feel challenged by the variety of tasks, from sales to creative development. Balancing marketing, creative time, and learning new skills feels challenging. How can I best prioritize and build ideal habits to balance creativity, deep work, sales, and business growth and free time? So key insights. Flow. Number one, value challenge by seeing it as an opportunity to cultivate skill and also calibrate into your flow. There is a sweet spot. There is a point where within challenge, you can enter into flow. You can enter into flow state. As you continue to do that, you will build that ideal habit. Number two, consider scheduling your day in a way that factors all these areas. It doesn't necessarily mean that you put everything in one day and then do it every day that way for 7 days. Consider dedicating whole days. Even, for example, you may consider doing Monday on skill cultivation for a particular skill 1 week and then not do it the next week and do it on the third week of the month. Because when you look at the end of the month, you will see that you have factored in all those areas. And if you would like to dedicate more of your attention in those areas, consider automation, delegation, elimination, or optimization so you can fit it all in. And you'll get better at it with practice. Consider Google Calendar and scheduling so that what happens is you can stay focused on one task at a time, one project at a time, one initiative, and be fully committed to it. Ensure that you are doing the things that you love to do, hobbies, hanging out with friends. I recommend not neglecting those areas, those important areas of your life. That's helpful as well. And stagger it. By that I mean, consider varying the days up so that at the end of the week, when you look at your calendar, you can evaluate and say, well, I'll adjust this next week. Now, as you do this, if you study productivity or you learn about project management, or if you're a student of my productivity program, all these things that I talk about in there, so many nuances, you'll choose the ones that support being the way that you are. Support living the ideal life that you desire to live. So I trust you found this video to be helpful and you enjoyed this walk with me on the High Line. Certainly so much fun enjoying this conversation with you. Let's conclude this with an auto suggestion to further encourage. You could say, I know my ideal ratio in relation to the various areas of my life to remain in my flow, to live the life that I truly desire to live, factoring all areas of my life in a harmonious way as I enjoy living the way I truly desire to live. Everything flows naturally and harmoniously as reality is rigged in my favor. I'm able to see clearly how reality is rigged in my favor as I listen to myself and trust myself and honor my intuition and still small voice, which guides the way to integrate what I learn, insights, perspectives, in a way that facilitates heaven on earth.